Hi everybody, this is Eugene O'Loughlin, lecturer in computing at the National College of Ireland, and welcome to my series of problem-solving techniques videos. In video number 21, we're going to take a look at simple moving averages. Moving averages are part of what we call time series analysis. If we think about data collected at regular intervals, this is often called time series data. And it's a method of forecasting. We look at trends and patterns in the data, we remove variations from the data, and this helps us predict future behaviour. It also helps us smooth our data out, as we will see in some charts later on in the video. The two most basic types of time series analysis are simple moving averages, which I'm going to cover in this video, and weighted moving averages, which I will cover in a separate video available from my channel Learn with Dr. Eugene O'Loughlin. So, what is a simple moving average? Well, at its most basic, it's an estimate of the demand for a future time period. And we get this estimate by averaging the demand for a number, usually between 3 and 7, of the most recent time periods. So let's take a look at a simple example which will explain what we mean by this. Supposing we've got some sales figures for 3 months, actual sales figures for January, February and March. And we want to be able to use these actual figures to help us forecast the figure for April. So what I've done here is I've taken my January, February and March figures and I'm going to put them into a formula to help me calculate my moving average. So you can see in the formula down here at the bottom that I have my forecasted figure for April is equal to, and notice that I put them backwards this time, the figure for March plus the figure for February plus the figure for January, and because I'm calculating a 3-month moving average, I want to divide the actual figures for March, February and January by 3. So I've taken that formula and just put it up at the top here, and now I'm going to make this look a little bit more scientific. So at the top I have my forecast for April is equal to the actual figures for March, February and January divided by 3, representing the 3 months. And down at the bottom I have replaced April with F. So my forecast demand, remember April is the month I'm trying to forecast my demand for, so that's the current month. So that means FT, T meaning the current month. And that's equal to the figures for March, February and January, and I'm representing these by the letters A. So March is T minus 1, so April minus 1 is equal to March. So I add the actual figure for March, AT minus 1, to AT minus 2, which is the actual demand for T minus 2, which is February, plus A, the actual demand for T minus 3, which is January. And then I divide that figure by 3, and that will give me the forecast demand for the current time T, April in our example here. Now let's look at an example, and here's an extract from Excel, and just examine these figures first. You can see that I've got some sales figures for all the 12 months of the year 2011, starting with a figure of 8,938 for January and working my way down to 11,055 for December. And there's two main things I want to do here. I want to calculate my moving average for all the months, or as many months as I can throughout these figures, and I also want to be able to calculate the figure for January. So to do all of that, I'm going to use my actual demand figures here. These are the existing figures, so these are my A figures. And I also want to calculate my forecast figures. These are my F figure for the month of January. So here's how I do this. Now, because I'm calculating a 3-month moving average, I of course can't do this for January, February or March. So the first month in my year is April, that I can calculate my 3-month moving average figure for. So I want to calculate this for April and all the months down to December and into January of the following year. So here's how we do this. First off, just like in the earlier formulas I had here in Excel, you can see here in cell D5 that I've got on C4 plus C3 plus C2 divided by 3. So just watch out for the brackets in this, because division will take precedence over plus. So I'm adding my 3 monthly figures for March, February and January in that order, and then dividing the sum of that by 3. Me a result of 8,421. So my moving average for the first 3 months of the year is 8,421. And in Excel then I simply copy that formula down to the end of my column here. And I've got all my values for each of the months. Now these are moving averages for each of the months based on the actual demand. And then down for January is the forecasted demand. I don't have an actual figure for January because I'm predicting that figure. And I can see here, using my moving averages, the figure highlighted in yellow and pointed out in red here, the figure of 10,424, and that's based on the moving average for the previous December, November and October. One last thing to do with this data here, I've got two charts here. And the first one is just a line graph based on my original sales figures before I calculated any moving averages. And you can see that there's quite a bit of variation in my data here. The line is going up and down. And if you remember from our introduction, we want to use time series analysis to remove variation. My second chart on the bottom right hand corner over here is a chart illustrating my 3-month moving average figures. And you can see straight off that there are no figures for January, February and March because we were not able to calculate those. And the most striking thing between the two graphs is that the graph on the right hand side, bottom right, is much smoother than the one on my left hand side. So I have removed variation or reduced variation, and I can see that for most of the year the trend is upwards and that the trend is downwards towards the end of the year. And this may give me some valuable information when I'm forecasting future growth, not just for January but all the way for next year. Finally, if you found this problem-solving technique useful, you can read about this and more problem-solving techniques in my book, An Introduction to Business Systems Analysis, which is about problem-solving techniques and strategies. It's published by the Liffey Press and available at Amazon and other online bookstores. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for your attention.